Hello everybody, a very warm welcome back to MEC-TEC. We're back out on the drive today and we are doing an impromptu video on the old cab. Now, as they say, buy cheap, buy twice. I put rear springs on this cab not so long ago, probably 3 or 4 months ago, and they were patent springs. And I said to you at the time on the video, I'm very happy with the way these springs look. They've got just a coil that just stops abruptly and it's not got a flat top or machine top on it like the originals have. Well anyway, they have started making, or something has started making a funny noise again, which sounds to me like the spring and also sounds to Mrs. MEC-TEC like the spring, because I took her out for a ride in it yesterday and she said it sounds like the spring snapped again. So I've got a new pair of genuine rear springs to go on it yet again, but we've also got to do rear axle bearings, the passenger side rear, what would effectively be the wheel bearing, but on this, because it's a live rear axle, is the axle bearing has gone, it is making an absolute racket. So we need to do, I'm going to do both sides, there's no point in just doing one. I'm going to do both sides of the rear axle bearings, which would be the wheel bearings, and the axle seals as well. So without further ado, let's get this up in the air and get some work done. Right, it is actually daylight, but I've had to set up a tarp, as you can see, because it keeps blinking raining. Anyway, right, to get the spring out of there, we need to undo that front mount on the trailing arm. We need to undo that mount on the bottom of the shock there, and I think I undid the panhard rod, and I think, if I remember rightly, I released the exhaust from that rubber over there where my finger is, and I think that allows us to drop the axle down enough to get the spring out. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to get that done. You've already seen me do this before. I'll stick you on a bit of time lapse. We'll quickly knock these springs out, get these done, and then hopefully we can get on to doing the bearings, which is what we really need to do. Right, there we go, that is one side done. As you would have just seen, I didn't bother filming the putting back together because it was basically a reverse of what you just saw in the time lapse. The new spring is now in there again. The old spring is over there on the floor looking disgraceful. I have noticed this shock's got quite a lot of play in the top of it, which I did know it had some in it, but I didn't realise how much, so I'm hoping that that wasn't the noise. But having said that, I wasn't very happy with these springs anyway, because the ones that I put on there, these ones over here, they didn't ride very well. So right, I'm going to get around the other side, get the other side done. It's going to be exactly the same as this. I'll get that done and then I'll come back to you when we're on to the bearings. Rightio, that is the passenger side spring in, as you can see in there. Nice new shiny spring, same as the last one. The other two are over there on the floor, and that is that job done. Now we've got to get the bearings done. Now this is the bearing that's gone on the passenger side rear. So we've got to get the drum off, which is that screw there, and we've also got to get the alignment hole in line with the adjuster, slacken off the shoes, so then the drum will come off easy, and then hopefully we can get to, I think there's a cutout in this centre sort of part of the half shaft, and I think you can get to the bolts on the plate behind to obviously pull the half shaft out. Now we are going to have to drain the oil as well, so I'll probably do that first. Actually, I'll get the oil drained out, so we haven't got oil spilling out the sides of the half shafts, and then we can get this part on the go hopefully. I may try and jack the cab up a little bit more, just so that we're a bit more on the level, so when we do refill it again, obviously we're on a level, more level sort of playing field, as far as it's not going to all stop at the back when I try and fill it up. So yeah, I'm going to fiddle around with that, get it maybe a little bit higher, In fact, I'm not sure I can get it any higher. Actually, looking at my axle stands, I think they're on the highest they'll go. It's a bit of a pain. Anyway, I'll get it all drained out, and then we'll get this, hopefully get this half shaft out and have a look at this bearing, which is absolutely annihilated. It sounds disgusting when you go along. It sounds like the wheel's going to fall off. Not ideal when you've got passengers in the back. Let's carry on. Right, we're under the back of the cab. As you can see, we've got a fuel plug there, which is why it's all drained down inside where I checked it the other day, and a drain plug there. So I know the fuel plug comes undone because we had it undone, so we won't worry about doing that for the minute. I'm just going to get this drain plug undone. See what nasty's come out of this. So it's going to absolutely stink, as gear oil normally does. Well, if that's a magnet on there, yeah, it's got a little bit of metal on that, but nothing too horrendous by the looks of it. General wear, it's glugging out of there, so we'll let that glug out, and then once that's done, I'll come back to you and we'll get that half shaft out. Right, we've got our drum off, and if you look inside there, you can just see underneath that spring some nuts on a little plate. They are the ones that we need to get undone, and you can line up this hole with them. Hopefully you'll be able to see that if I shine it in there. You can see the nuts in there. I'm hoping we'll be able to get those undone through that hole, and then in theory the whole half shaft and bearing should slide out in one go. Now you can see in there as well, it is a little bit damp, so that seal was just starting to fail, which is, so it's a good thing we're doing this, because obviously if that fails and then contaminates all your brakes. It hasn't yet, but it was starting to, and this is the side where the bearing's gone, so that's probably maybe why it's let contaminants in and it's knackered the bearing. So let's get this undone, and hopefully it should just pull out after that with any luck, fingers crossed. Right, there are 6 bolts behind there which I've got undone. As you can see, some of them are wet, which means that definitely was leaking, so it's definitely good we're doing this. Now that releases the whole back plate. As you can see, the whole thing's loose. I'm hoping, God, the cup bottom is covered in grease. I'm hoping that I can get my slide hammer on it and slide this off. So let me put you down and let's see if it works. If it don't, I'm gonna have to come up with a new plan. Better angle on it, hang on. Let's hope this works. So I've not really got another plan after this. Try and do it evenly, I reckon that's probably the best bet. Might need a bigger slide hammer. I don't actually know if it's moving or not. Let's have a little look with the torch. I'd say it's not moving. Right, okay. Not sure how we're going to do this at the moment then. Not sure how we're going to get this off. I'm wondering if it's... I asked the guy at the garage and he said it should just pull out with the bearing on it. Famous last words, I guess. That's my hand doing this slide, that's the problem. Okay, I'm going to have a little fiddle around with this for a minute, see if I can get this off in some way or another. Right, sit rep. After a few claps with a hammer, it is now free, but I've got to take all the brakes off and the handbrake cable and actually the brake pipe itself, because in their infinite wisdom they've clamped all the back plate in behind the plate that holds the axle in, so I can't get the axle out until I've taken all the stuff off the back plate so the back plate can come with it, if that makes sense. So I'm going to buzz off. I've got the 2 twisty clips on the brakes there to undo the springs. That should release the shoes. I can then get the handbrake cable off, and then I've got 1 brake pipe over the top there, which I've got to undo. You can see that the bearing's out from the back of it there. So I'll undo this 1 brake pipe. It's a shame because it means I'm going to have to bleed the brakes, but never mind. Excuse me. I'll get that off, and then hopefully we should be able to release this half shaft, and then we've got to go about getting that bearing off the half shaft to obviously then get the new one put on. So fingers crossed it all carries on going alright. Right, with everything undone and dripping everywhere, hopefully should be able to get this half shaft out of here. Any luck? What's stopping it now? Should be nothing stopping this from coming out now. Unless there's something tying it in the middle, which I was told that there's not. Ah, I'll tell you what it is, it's handbrake cable. I had a bit of a panic there for a minute, not gonna lie. These have got like a funny plastic clip on them that you have to push in each side and then push it through at the same time. It's a right pain. Apologies for the light, I'm under a tarpaulin because it looks like it's going to absolutely chuck it down the rain in a minute. So it is actually daytime, just it don't look it. I'm going to go get some brake cleaner, clean this off because I can't see what I'm doing, and I'll come back to you when I've got the handbrake cable free. Right, there we go, that is the half shaft out after resting with that handbrake cable. You can see what a mess that back plate's in, how much it was leaking. It was obviously leaking for a little while. So now we've got to work out how to get this lot off, because that is the ABS ring, traction control. There's our new bearing, which obviously is that bit there. So we've got to get this bit off first. It looks like this first bit of the half shaft is slightly bigger, which is good, which means you haven't got to tap it all the way along. So I'm going to try and work out how I'm going to tap that off. It may be that I have to tap it off with the bearing as well, if that makes sense. But there is a gap in between there, so I need to measure that first before I touch anything. In fact, let's do that now. See if we can get a caliper on it. Where's my... that is in there. Okay, we get that in there. Let's zero it, make sure it's zeroed. Get that in there. From the tooth to the front edge of the bearing is 4.44 mil. That's easy to remember, isn't it? 4.44. So that is that there. So at least we know what that distance is. So now I'm going to try and knock this off. I'm sorry I'm not doing this all on camera, but I haven't got a clue how it goes, and obviously I need to try and get this done ASAP because I'm running out of light. As you can see, it's getting dark out there. So I'm trying to talk you through the steps as I go, just to help anyone out who's trying to do this, but I've not done it myself yet, so I'm just trying to work it out myself as well. So I'm going to get this, hopefully this ABS bit part knocked off, get the bearing knocked off. We'll give all this a good old clean up and then put it all back together with a new bearing. Right, after all that struggling, I've got precisely nowhere. When I heated it up for the last time, this little ABS ring did drop down on its own, so I know the ABS ring is loose, but this sleeve here is the problem. I can't get this sleeve off, and I think that's the sleeve that runs on the seal on the axle, so I'll need to save that because I haven't got a new one with a bearing. I think if I bought an aftermarket bearing, typically it came with a sleeve, but because I bought a genuine bearing because I wanted the best bearing, it didn't come with a sleeve. So what I'm thinking now is, it's a bit backward, but I'm actually going to cut the outer race of this bearing off, because this clamp it's got a gap in it, but it won't stretch over this bearing housing. And I think if I get that off, which would then allow me to lift the back plate off, I can then get this part in the vise with maybe some angle iron in between that bit there, and I can put some downward pressure on the top of that half shaft to hopefully get it to free up, like with a hammer or whatever, a sledgehammer or whatever. That's what I'm hoping. I don't know if it's going to work or not. I mean, the only sacrificial part I have got is this bearing, so that's the only thing I'm thinking at the moment, is I can cut that off and not have to worry, because I've got a new one of those. The ABS ring and the sleeve I haven't got a new one of, so at this point I'm really struggling, to be honest with you. It's one of those jobs I wish I'd never started, and I don't know whether it's necessarily a DIY job, because you need, if you're going to use a press, which I've got, as you see over there, you need a big press, like a tall one, and I haven't, it won't fit in there, it's not tall enough. So yeah, that's where I stage I'm at the moment. So I'm thinking I'm going to cut this outer race off. You can hear the bearing, it's absolutely toast, so it's definitely, that's definitely my problem. That's still hot even now, believe it or not, since I heated it up. That new blowtorch I got is really good. So yeah, I'm going to have a little think on this, and I'll come back to you when I've decided what I'm going to do. Right, I've cut that outer bearing shell off. It is quite hot, but there's half of it. You can see I've pretty muddled that, but we don't need that, so that's alright. Right, now, the plan is now I can get this out the vise a second. It's still fairly hot. In fact, I'll just lean it over like that and see if we can lift this over. There's a plate on here which I thought would have split apart to come off, but it wouldn't come off, so that's that. I ain't asking this thing no more, I'm telling it. So right, this should lift off now. Yep, hopefully. That's it. That's that out of the way. And then we've got, this is where the bearing seal sits in here. We haven't got to take that off at the moment, we'll leave that there. What I might try and do now is get the rest of this bearing off, the inner bit of this bearing. I can then drop the ABS ring off, because I don't want to damage that, and then we can have a go at getting the rest of that sleeve off. That's the plan. So I was trying to be nicey with it, but it wasn't having none of it, so I've just gone for it basically. So yeah, that's where I'm at the moment. I'm trying to do this as best I can with the tools I've got. So it's not the most orthodox route, definitely not, but we're trying to get it done. So once I've made a bit more progress, I'll come back to you in a minute, and hopefully I'll have this bearing off. Right, after doing all that, this is what I've come up with. I've got my bench press on the floor without the press in it, and there's a hole in the top which I've poked the half shaft through, and I've made these two plates up that fit exactly around this tube with just semicircles cut in them so they fit around them, and it's underneath this sleeve that I've got to get off. So the theory is, obviously there's a gap underneath it, the theory is I heat it up again. I'm going to get something over the top of this to try and protect that, and basically hit it as hard as I can with a sledgehammer and see whether that does it. If that don't do it, then I don't know what I'm going to do, because I've literally tried everything and hurt my shoulders and back in the process. But anyway, we'll gloss over that. So anyway, right, I'm going to heat this up again, and hopefully it will come out, and I'll be cheering on the camera in a minute. Right, after all my attempts of getting that sleeve off, it was having none of it, so I had to cut it off. I've gone and bought a new one, and I've got a bag of ice and a bag of peas cooling down the bottom of this half shaft, and then in the kitchen I've got the new bearing and the new sleeve in the oven, so obviously heating up one and cooling down the other, so hopefully they'll fit over and it should go well with any luck. So I've just put them in the oven, so when they've got a bit warm after 10 or 15 minutes I'll come back to you, and hopefully we can get these fitted on. Right, I'm going to go and get these bits from the oven. Fingers crossed it works, eh? Right, dinner's served. Let's hope it works. Do it quite quickly, because obviously I want it to cool down. Gone on so far. Not far enough. Like went on before. That's it actually. I think we're there. Yes, we are. It worked. I think it worked. I don't know. I think it worked. I think we're there. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I wish my press worked. I don't think it's gone on far enough. This is a nightmare. Absolute nightmare. Right, the bearing I think is all the way down. I think we're alright on that. This sleeve. Going. So actually there. Not sure if it's supposed to go a bit more than that or not. I think we're there. I think we're there. Let's go a fraction more. Oh, this is after taking it out, I tell you. Right, it's there. It's there. Don't think you can go any more than that. Gonna give it a couple more whacks just to make sure. Belt and braces and all that. You've got to shatter it now. Tone's changed, so I think we're there. Yeah. Yes, it worked. Brilliant. I wasn't sure that was going to work. Ice cubes out here and bags of peas. Well, let's go and put these back in the freezer. Right. This is day 5 of this repair now. It is absolutely kicking my butt. I've had to do it bit by bit because I've just made me hurt so much with my back and stuff. Anyway, I'm waffling. In here we've got a seal which we've got to replace. Got a nice new one to go in there. so I need to work on getting that out, and I also need to clean up all the surface in here, because that surface is pretty manky, to be honest, and it's not going to go in very easy with a new bearing, I don't think. So I'm going to spend a bit of time getting this seal out, cleaning all this up, and then hopefully we can get our new seal pushed in there and get this half shaft back in, hopefully, and stop this leaking all over the drive, which would be nice. Let's carry on. Right, the new seal is now in. I took the ABS sensor out just so I could get it to go in square. I didn't want any risk damaging that. There's only one little bolt on the top there, so that's now out and out of the way. So I think the time has come to try and get this half shaft back in, and it will determine whether I've done it right or not. Let's hope it goes back in. If it don't, I don't know what I'm going to do. Right. It turns out, by the way, that this rusty area in here is not the bit that the bearing sits in. It's actually the bit that the toothed wheel sits in for the ABS, which is why it's a little bit rusty, because obviously nothing actually touches it. But I've cleaned it up with a wire brush on a wheel, on a drill rather, just so it's nice and clean. Let's see if we can get this to go back in. Quite close quarters here to the wall, which is unfortunate. You wouldn't think this job would be so difficult. I really didn't expect this at all. It has faulted me all the way, and I dare say it's going to carry on fighting me all the way. If anyone says to you, do a rear wheel bearing on a taxi for me, just say no. Because it's more ag than it's worth. Get a garage to do it. I don't like saying that, but this is where the half shaft doesn't go back in there. You watch. Oh, we're not going in. Where we find something in the axle has to be aligned, and it's not going to just slide back in like it came out. You watch. Come on, please. Ah, there it goes. Right. Please just slide in like you know you want to. You might have to give it a little bit of persuasion with the bearing, because obviously the bearing is quite a tight fit in this housing. Right, it's in the gap. Just going to have to get something on the end of here now, I think, and just give that a gentle tap in, hopefully. That's the plan anyway. What I might do is, while I'm here, is just put this brake hose back on, because it's dripping everywhere. We'll get that to go back in, that'll be helpful. Whoops. Going gently. Oh, yeah. It is, thank goodness. Right, let's get that brake back. Need a torch, can't see anything. Normal pipe. Why are we not screwing in? Like I said, it's fighting me all the way. Right, let's tap the rest of this bearing in. I'm going to get a little bit of WD-40 and spray it around that seal. There's a little seal on the outside of the bearing. I don't want it to go in without some WD on it. Yeah, there's a rubber O-ring around the outside of this bearing, along with the main axle seal. So I just want to put some WD on that to stop it chafing up, hopefully, and it'll go in a bit easier. It's torqued under here so I can see. Go magnet torch. There we go. Not shining where I want it to. Standard. Okay. See MEC-TEC. Mum going out. In case you're wondering who I'm talking to. Right, nearly there with the half shaft going in. Stopping it now. Something's stopping it. What's stopping it? I dare say it's going to be the plate on the back. It's got a little cut out in it. Got to get it lined up. Wish I could stop this brake plate leaking. Once again, it's fighting me tooth and nail to the bitter end. Right, I'm going to try and get this brake pipe on and I'll come back to you in a minute. Right, it is in this point in the video where you're expecting to see the cab all put back together lovely and sing and dance and everything else. Well, it is all put back together and it did all absolutely work fine, but I didn't film it because by the time I'd finished and got to the stage you just saw in the video where I was hammering that half shaft back in, I was completely clapped, had enough. It took me literally days to do that repair, mainly because of that sleeve on the half shaft. If you are going to do this job yourself, get a new sleeve straight away, get a new bearing obviously, get a new seal, cut the old ones off. That is my biggest bit of advice. Just cut the old ones off. It's the most easy way to do it, especially if you haven't got a big tool press. That is what you need to do. If I'd have done that in the first place, I probably would have had the job done in a day and it would have been absolutely fine. But going backwards and forwards up to Islington in London to get the bits was obviously a bit time consuming, and I ended up going there, I think it was 2 or 3 times in the end, so it was a bit ridiculous really. But yeah, if you want to do this job yourself, it is doable as a home DIY mechanic, but it's not an easy job really. And well, I say it's not an easy job, it's a straightforward job, but make sure you cut the old bearings and sleeves off. Don't try and get them off by hammering them off with a slide hammer or the way I did it, because I did my back in and I was hurting for a good few days. I'm okay again now, thank God. But yeah, I think I'm going to get the garage to do the other side, because I cannot be dealing with doing it again, and it's not as bad as what the side I've just done was, so it can wait a little while and then it's going to go into the garage and be done, because I cannot be dealing with doing that job on the other side all over again, especially after how it made me feel doing the first side. It would be absolutely easy as anything if you had a tool press, which I think I'm going to invest in, because my press is out of action. Unfortunately, the cylinder blew on it. I tried welding it all up, and no matter what I did, it was not sealed. It was leaking oil out as soon as I put any oil into it, which is, I tried to repair it so I could do this particular job. It was having none of it. So it's one of them things, unfortunately, is what it is. So yeah, it is a DIY job. You can do it yourself, but for the love of God, don't. Just don't. People have asked me on a couple of past cab videos, you know, have you ever done a real ball bearings on a cab? And now I can say I have. It is doable, but I don't want to do it again for a long while. So these ones lasted 145,000 miles. So as long as I get another 145,000 miles out of the next lot of bearings, I'll be doing all right. That is what I'm hoping. Anyway, the cab's back on the road now. We are back in business again. It is all sorted. What else is there? I've missed anything. When I put it back together, I know I didn't film any more of it, but basically it was those 6 bolts that I took out that go through to hold the half shaft in. So you saw me hammer that back in. It did just tap back in with that block of wood and a hammer. I wasn't hitting it too hard, it just tapped back in nice. Bit of WD-40 around the O-ring on the bearing. And those 6 bolts bolt it all back up, and obviously then you've got to put your brakes back together. I didn't feel putting the brakes back together because, as you well know from previous videos, I absolutely hate drum brakes, and I was having a mare with it. So I just did it and got it done and got it back on the road. You saw me do the brakes in the last one of the previous videos anyway, so I didn't see the point of repeating the process on that one. So we've got new springs on the back now, new bearings on the back. It is a lot smoother now. I did still have a clonking noise though, and it turns out that the bolts on the trailing arms had very slightly backed off, and it was allowing them just to give it a little bit of flex, so they needed nipping back up nice and tight. Done that, and now I'm pretty much sort of knock free at the back. I have still got a little bit of a noise, which I think is the shock absorbers. I think I'm going to be changing those in the not too distant future. They've got a bit of play in them, and I think they are, well, they've done 145,000 miles, so you know they've done a fair whack of mileage, and with 5 people in the back of that cab, I dare say they've taken a bit of a pounding, so I'll probably have to replace those in the near future. Anyway, I'm waffling. This is going to be it for today's video. This is why I didn't get a video out last weekend, is because I was fighting with this cab from, I think it was Thursday through to Sunday. I was absolutely having a mare of it. It was an absolute nightmare just because of parts and trying to get it all apart. Anyway, I'm going on. If you do like what you see, make sure you do those 4 things for me: like, subscribe, share, and hit the notification bell. It's all free, it costs you absolutely nothing, and I really do appreciate it. It really helps me out on the channel. If you could do that for me, that would be absolutely superb. Thank you to everyone who has been subscribing. The count is still going up, which is absolutely great. Remember, I've got Instagram, MEC_TEC1985, and I've got Facebook, MEC-TEC, for little sneak peeks during the week of what I'm up to. And all that's left for me to say is thank you very much for watching. And if you want to join me soon for more automotive ventures on the Lotus or the van, that's going to be probably will be one of the next videos, then make sure you tune in again next time. Cheers guys.